Hello, my name is Miss Elizabeth. Welcome back. Today we're going to do a lesson on fractions. So we're going to talk about some of the more basic fractions. So this is more of an introductory lesson for those who are just learning it or maybe are a little bit confused about what they have learned. So we're going to start off with fourths and thirds, and I'm going to show you a way that you can do kind of some hands-on learning. And you can turn this into other fractions, bigger ones, more complicated ones, whatever fraction range you're learning. All right, so what you're going to need is paper plates. You can use big ones like the full-size paper plates, or you can use small ones. I use small ones, but it doesn't matter. Some construction paper, or if you just have regular paper, that's fine too. A marker or something to write with, some glue, and some scissors. So we're going to start off with fourths. So here's what I've made for fourths, and I'll walk you through how I made it. I traced a circle to match the size of the plate, and then I cut it in half first because that's the easiest way to do it. So cut it in half, and then I put them together and cut it in half again. So now I have 4 equal parts. So 1/4 is equal to 1 out of 4 parts. They have to be equal. That's a big part of fractions. I can't do have 4 pieces, but have one be small and one be larger. So make sure they're as even as possible. Of course, they aren't going to be perfect because we're doing them ourselves, but as close as you can. I labeled each one 1/4. Another way to say 1/4 is a quarter. So I labeled them so they could see that each individual piece was a fourth. When you fold them back, I have inside the equivalent of 2/4. So if you take 2/4, that is also equal to a half. So you can peel these back and your child can see that if I combine 2/4, I now have 1/2. Then if you open all 4, I have the fraction 4/4. 4/4 equals a whole because that's including all of the pieces in the circle. So I'm going to walk you through how I actually made it, but this time I'm going to do 1/3. So thirds is going to be a little bit trickier to cut. Fourths is easy. You just cut in 2 equal parts and then do it again. So for thirds, it might not be perfect. If you have something to measure it out and make it perfect, then you may use that. That's wonderful. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, so bear with me. It may not be perfect. So I'm going to cut to the middle, and I'm going to eyeball about where 1/3 will be. And 1/3 is when you take a whole and you cut it into 3 equal pieces. Again, they need to be as equal as possible. Let's see how I did. And they're actually pretty equal. So I'd say I did a pretty decent job. So now on each of these, I'm going to label 1/3 because they represent one out of 3 parts. There are 3 parts in this circle, and each one represents 1. So I've got 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. Now on this one, I'm going to write that if we have 3 parts out of 3, it's equal to 1 whole. So while you're doing this, it's really important to make sure that your children understand that a fraction is a smaller piece of a whole. Now I'm going to take one piece and I'm just going to glue a little bit on the edges so that it holds down, but not too much so that it makes a mess. Now the glue will take a few minutes to dry, so it's good to press down firmly on it and then not play around with it too much as it dries or it will come off because it's just the edges that are glued. So I'm going to take the second piece and do the same thing right next to it. and then the last one. So while your children are making them, or once they're made and you are exploring them, make sure they're looking to see what one part equals, or one part looks like, or if you put two parts together, what that looks like, and talk about what that means now. You can turn it into, if I have, so mine are still wet, so I'm not going to fold them back, but once yours are dry, you can fold yours back, and I can say, if I have 2/3, if I take one away, and there's 2 parts, what fraction is that? It's now 2/3. So you can compare what 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts look like for thirds, and with fourths you can do 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts. And you can have that discussion. Now, like I said, you can do this with bigger fractions, or you can even start as simple as 1/2 with 2 parts in a whole if that's where your child is. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you had fun.